joined us. So let me kick off, if that's cool with everybody. Let me pull up my screen real quick here. All right. All right. So I am very, very excited to introduce our speaker, guys. His name is Keith Rosen. You all got his book that got sent to you guys here in the last week. For those of you that don't know Keith, since 1989, Keith has been a globally recognized authority on sales and leadership and the pioneer of executive sales coaching. He's written several bestseller books on time management, cold calling, closing the sale, including the book you have now, which is Coaching Salespeople into Sales Champions. That, by the way, was a winner of 5 International Best Book Awards and the #1 best-selling sales management book on Amazon since 2009. I did not know that. His recent book, he has a second book out called Sales Leadership. That was done in 2018. And it was named the 2018 Sales Leadership Book of the Year by Top Sales World and one of the best sales and leadership books of 2018 by Amazon. So Inc. magazine and Fast Company named Keith one of the 5 most influential executive coaches. He's been featured in Entrepreneur Inc., Fortune, the New York Times, Selling Power, CBS News, the Wall Street Journal, and is a frequent guest on Channel 12 News locally in New York. Keith was also featured. I want to hear about this, Keith, when we have you talk. He was also featured on the award-winning show Mad Men.
I actually found it.
Awesome. So Keith's philosophy on developing high-performance teams is pretty simple, guys. Sales training does not develop sales champions. Managers do. So, if companies want to develop and retain top talent with more sales and maintain their competitive edge, then first make your managers world-class executive sales coaches. And Keith is going to share a little bit today with us on that. He currently lives in New York with his wife and 3 children who continue to be his greatest inspiration. I got to know Keith about 5 years ago. I pinged him, read a couple of his blogs. Just sometimes, there's just certain people that just really resonate with you about how they talk about certain things around coaching or leadership. And with Keith, it just really resonated with me what he had to say and how he went about thinking about things and how we could all benefit from this. So anyway, we are excited to have him on today. Keith, are you out there?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
I think you might mute in the bottom left-hand corner.
There we go.
That may
How about
be
now?
on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, sir.
All right. Good to see you guys. I should really know how to use it. I literally just spent 4 hours on Zoom, and now all of a sudden I'm having technical difficulties. So great to see everybody there. As you can see, does where I'm at, the office, look familiar? Hopefully it should, right?
It does. Welcome to our call.
Pleasure.
We're extremely excited to have you on today, sir. Thank you. It's a real honor and a pleasure. And looking forward to hearing some great thoughts from you. We had a few questions that we had teed up for you. So I was going to ask you a few, and also Elisa, one of our leaders who you met before, was going to ask you a few. And then we left it open up to the crowd for, I'm sure they have maybe a few questions they might want to ask you, especially if some folks have read your book. They might have some questions out of that. But super excited to have you on board today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And of course, for everyone, just so you know, there's absolutely nothing you can't ask me. Okay, so I pride myself on full transparency. I actually spoke to a prospect last week, and we were in the middle of a conversation, and they said, Keith, I searched your name, and is it true that in 1947 you were arrested for fraud? I'm like, I wasn't born in, I'm really, do I look that old? And it's a wrong Keith Rosen. So people are constantly finding out stuff about me I don't even know about myself. So, but yes, please feel free to ask anything that I can do today. This is your time, everyone, what I can do to contribute to you.
Well, real quick, I want to hear about the Mad Men thing. I got to ask you that. I did not know that previously, but tell us, share the backstory real quick if you don't mind.
My wife actually found literally the other day. We were cleaning, pandemic, you start cleaning stuff out. It's amazing what you can find. So I actually found this. It's season 4 in the box set, and okay, so on the back it has here. Separate excerpts from world-renowned thought leaders on leadership and coaching. So basically what they did was, and I'm probably going to cut it up and put it online, is they put me in the Lionsgate studio, and they then had cuts of Draper and how he leads and manages. So they would show that cut, and then they would come to me and say, "Okay, Keith, how would you evaluate that?" And we would talk about best practices and comparing that to Draper's leadership style. So probably was on there for about an hour or so. So that was basically my claim to fame. And you're not going to see me in any of the live episodes, but I will say, since doing this, and this is what, 10, it has to be 10 years ago at least, I think 3 people came up to me and said, "Did I see you on the box set of Mad Men?" So as you can see, it got a lot of national recognition.
That's awesome. Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So I got a question for you, and I think you're going to have a funny answer to this. But when you think back to your earlier days as a sales leader coach, can you share an example of one of your experiences? I think you might have one here that you can share with us, right?
Well, are we talking about a good experience here, Stephen, or are we talking about a bad experience? Because I can certainly share both.
We're thinking about the wall.
Oh, geez.
You know what that?
I should have never brought that up to you. Okay, well,
you should have.
This is true story, everyone. I can't make this stuff up if I tried. By the way, it's probably one of the things I could have done better as a leader in hindsight. This was pre-coaching, so I'm going back 31 years ago. I owned another business. I had about 50 salespeople, and all the salespeople would be working out of the office. And had my senior salesperson, very open office in terms of allowing, as an owner, you want to use my office. If I'm not there, feel free, go in there, use my phone. I'm here to support you any way I can. You need my office to have a meeting, go for it. So one day I come into the office, and my top salesperson, Peter, is in the office. I've known Peter for, at that point, probably a good 2 years he's been working for us. And Peter is one of 16 children. Peter is 6'6", 325 pounds. He's not a little person, and in case you can't see me clearly, I am not 6'6", 325 pounds. So Peter was in my office. I go in there again, just show up, put my stuff down. I'm like, "Peter, how do you want phone?" He goes, "No, I need 5 minutes, 5 minutes." I'm like, "No worries, take your time. I go out, I'm doing some other stuff. I come back about 10, 15 minutes later, he's still on the phone. I said, "Peter, I have a call I have to make." He's like, "No, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes." I'm like, "Okay, man, it's my office, but totally fine. If you need it, absolutely." Come in 10 minutes later, so I gave him a lot of buffer time here, and didn't cut him off, just kind of doing the sign language thing. He says to the person, "I gotta go," hangs up the phone. It was like a cartoon. You know those cartoons where you see like Wile E. Coyote run through the wall, and it has that picture of him still through the wall? Well, Peter took me and literally threw me through the wall. I can't make this stuff up. Physically threw me through the wall to the point where I literally saw I was in my partner's office. Clearly, it was 1/4-inch plywood, drywall. Let's talk about that. But still, that's one of those things that I hope no one ever has to deal with. It's one of those fun facts about Keith. Hey, Keith got thrown through a wall one of the first times he was a manager in his new company. So the irony about it is there's actually more to the story. We didn't fire him.
You didn't? Why not?
It gets better. I left the best for last for you, Stephen. We didn't fire him, and this is a great lesson for everyone, because he was one of our top producers. So what did we do? As upset as I was, and I'm sitting with my partners, as you can imagine, fairly upset. Guys, this is ridiculous. I mean, he didn't just hit me. He literally threw me through a wall. My impression of is still in there. Keith, we're not firing him. What are you talking about? He says, "You know how much money he's making us?" I said, "Yeah, I do, but really, guys?" And I had 3 other partners. Long story short, we kept him. Best salesperson. Okay. It gets better. 6 months later, he started turning, his attitude became a little toxic. No one wanted to work with him. We were getting collateral damage. Our good salespeople were leaving because of him. But what did? We got seduced by potential. You ever be seduced by the potential you see in someone? And then a month after that, not long after that, We bought him a car. We bought him a Lexus. I'm going years back so he can go out on appointments. I'm sitting in the car's in the passenger seat. Get this, everyone. I open the side compartment. I pull out a business card. It wasn't my business card. It was Peter's business card with his business and his name on it. What he was doing is he was stealing all of our leads and selling them under his company. So when do you fire your top salesperson? Unfortunately, I had to take the long lesson of what it means to be seduced by potential. When you have the evidence of change or not change, that's a sign right there. You never want to be held hostage by anyone. So anyway, that's the end of that story, Stephen.
the seduction of potential, right, Keith?
You got that.
Hey, so let's change gears for a second. What do you think goes into the making of a great sales coach? Like what in your mind? Share some thoughts with us around that.
The first visceral reaction I had was everything started with characteristics that are internal versus skill set. So, I mean, you can have the greatest skill set, you can follow any framework, but if you don't have a deep sense of compassion for people, a deep sense of care, a deep sense of not just support, unconditional support for every person you work with and interact with. If you don't have a deep sense of understanding that every single person is going through something and we need to be mindful and empathetic that when we ask for something, that person may be having a really bad day and we need to be mindful of that. We need to demonstrate that. We need to share that we understand how people are motivated and we respect that mutual level of respect. Those to me are the things that show up first as a coach. Now, beyond that, those core characteristics of who you are always going to be more important than what you do. But if you are someone who cares deeply, and the one thing I know about leaders is most leaders become leaders because they want to make an impact. That's what they want to do. They want to help other people succeed. And it sounds really good when I ask that question in a safe environment, when they're not getting 50 calls and texts and they don't have 17 Zoom meetings to attend. That idea gets thrown out the window real quick, and it's very easy to resort back to being the chief problem solver, the directive manager. And that's when we move into a state of reaction. And if we don't stop and move back to becoming that coach and leading with questions rather than leading with answers, we're just going to perpetuate that global conundrum of having everyone be dependent on us. And then we wonder why we have no time to do anything we need to do other than solve everyone else's problems. So it's being able to park your ego. It's about being selfless. It's about putting others before yourself. It's about being really curious. To me, if you're curious, that means you care. You're not curious, you just don't care. So those are the things outside of just the framework that you need to be able to actually facilitate a coaching conversation.
That's a great answer. We before you joined, we had a little poll with our leaders around what makes a great coach. A lot of the things that you just brought up were words that were put into the poll. I love the word care. That you mentioned, care, and like that, I think you started off with that, and that makes such a difference, right? So let's look at the other side of the coin. So what do you think is probably one of the biggest gaps that separates great coaches, Keith, from just okay coaches? What do you think that might be, or what are a couple of things that you see?
Again, the best coaches I have a few things here to share. The best coaches I know are modeling what's possible for others to achieve. The best coaches I know, and I take this to heart personally, you can't take someone where you haven't been yourself. So I know some people, they may feel, well, Keith, that's not really true because if I just have the question, I can coach people. And that's true. But at some point, people don't just need a coach asking questions. They need an advisor. They need a subject matter expert. They need a trainer. And as leaders and managers, we need to understand we have to wear all of these hats and know which hat to put on when. The only way leaders know what hat to wear, it always starts with coaching. Because when you seek to understand what's going on and you uncover that gap with that person, you'll know very quickly, oh, this is a training gap. Oh, this is a knowledge gap. Oh, this is a blind spot for them. Oh, they're making an assumption. But you won't know that unless you start leveraging the coaching framework, like my coaching framework, the leads framework, to really uncover what's really going on so that you're finding that one gap that could truly move that needle exponentially to achieve greater success. So again, being a model, there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a reason why most coaches out there that have their own practice make less than $40,000 a year. And I feel very blessed. I've never really had to do any outbound marketing. I write from my heart. I put out there what I feel people need for them to be successful, not only as a manager, as a leader, or a salesperson, but as a human being. And as a result, I've attracted great clients back. And I feel if you're coaching someone on self-care, well, that means you need to take care of yourself. If you're coaching someone on sales, that means you have to have pretty good sales acumen. If you're coaching someone on coaching, that means you need to be modeling coaching. If you're coaching someone on relationships or finance, doesn't mean you have to have the perfect relationship, but you have to have a good sense of an experience of what that looks like. Again, hard to coach people to a place you haven't been yourself. So I hope that gives you a couple of nuggets there.
Yeah, and by the way, your blogs on LinkedIn are just top notch. So if you guys are following Keith on LinkedIn, highly suggest you follow him. You've got some great content out there. So,
and by the way, if we're not connected, send me an invite so we can connect. Okay.
Absolutely. Elisa, I know you had a few questions for Keith. You want to jump in?
Absolutely, Keith. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Just to build on some of the questions that Steve's already asked you, would you mind sharing with us some of your non-negotiables when it comes to coaching?
Integrity, core values, personal vision. So let me break that down. How can you be a coach if you're not someone who lives in integrity? Now, keep in mind, integrity doesn't always mean honesty. It means what you do to make yourself whole and complete. So, which is why I talk about values. What are your core values? To me, my personal core values, one of them is hopefully doing what I'm doing with you now, which is making an impact. Other core values, family, my children, adventure, music. If you saw behind the office here, you'd see my whole guitars. We could do that next time. Value travel, connection, love, making a difference, self-care. These are all my core values. And if you're not living your values, in essence, you're out of your own integrity and you will feel off. And how do you then uncover your values? Well, to me, again, I have a very clear vision of who I am, who I want to continue to be, and how I want my life to look. If you ask most people to send you what their personal vision is written down, you're not going to get one. Because most people, number one, don't even know what a personal vision is. Number two, they never took the time to write one down. So where else do coaches come from? Exceptional, to me, exemplary coaches come from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Great leaders come from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. It saddens me, and I apologize for getting off point here, Lisa. It saddens me when I was have seen over and over again the articles that are coming out over the last 6 months. How forget about consumer confidence. CEO confidence is at an all-time low. Well, what I'm hearing though is so you have CEOs that believe that they can't basically do their job or their people can't do their job. But the last time I checked, we don't get tested on our good days. We get tested on our challenging days. That's why they call them challenging days. And I find it very interesting that where before, everything was going great, and all of a sudden, this is when we're challenged, and CEO confidence is an all-time low. Disengagement is up to 74%. And I just did a survey, and I'm happy to share it with everyone, of now that, and had over 3,000 responses. And the question was, now that you're working remotely, what are you spending most of your time doing or feeling? First response, virtual meetings, remote meetings. Second response, self-care, life balance. Third response, feeling alone, disconnected, unsupported. Fourth response, client retention, service, prospecting. Which one do you think rose to the top? Feeling disconnected, feeling unsupported, feeling alone. 44%. 44% of people Okay, now I'm sure if I continued that survey, it would still share the same results. But I found it interesting. They have 44%, you have that many people that are fully disengaged and unhappy at work. But yet you have around 22% of people, more people spending time with self-care. Meetings and prospecting was the lowest. Disengagement was the highest. So how do I interpret that? Managers and leaders, they're not coaching on a good day, and they're certainly not coaching on a bad day.
No, I appreciate that. And I think, your points there are a perfect segue into something I really wanted to just get your input and your thoughts on, your perspective, which is, coaching specifically in a COVID environment, right? Like we're all living in it right now. Our people are going through it. And how have you seen that evolve or even not evolve in the clients that you're working with, given the levels of stress that leaders and their teams are faced with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, perfect segue. Thank you for that. We've talked in the past about, and I'm actually in the process of writing about this. Still, ideas are still percolating, but basically it's about bringing love back into organizations, or bringing love into organizations. Now, before anyone here turns off, their screen and runs away because I use the L word in corporate America, oh my gosh, let's talk about this. We use the word love when we say, oh, I love that movie, I love my meal, I love my friends, I love my client, I love my boss, I love my job. So love is already there. Okay, now where am I bringing this to? Okay, managers are now having conversations they've never had before. For example, how do you manage in this environment? Okay, how do you manage when everyone is living in a state of uncertainty and doubt and fear in this pandemic? Well, managers aren't. You think, are you guys? No, and no, not pointing at any leaders here. But managers aren't getting the coaching they need from their manager. Their managers aren't getting the coaching they need from their senior VPs. Their senior VPs aren't getting the coaching they need. It starts from the top. So the problem is that as a senior leader, if I'm not getting good coaching, it's going to be very difficult for me to recognize when other people need it and what they need. So take this perfect example of now everyone is now remote. Okay, 44% of most companies before this pandemic didn't even allow remote working. So now you have everyone working remotely. The majority of people never worked remotely before. And let's be clear, no one's ever even been trained how to work remotely. And managers, inclusive of not being trained how to work remotely, have never been trained how to coach remotely, forgetting about even coaching on a good day. So what are the conversations that need to happen? So imagine this, right? So there you are, you're having a one-on-one with one of your salespeople, one of your direct reports, and we're having a Zoom meeting. And you're sitting there in your office, right? And the other person's there, they're in their kitchen. They look miserable. They look like they haven't slept in days. They're holding their baby who's crying, okay? Behind them, you could see their office is in shambles. Are you really going to tell me, uh-oh, I can't talk about that, I'll get in trouble with HR? The conversations are going to change, everyone. HR needs to change, okay? Sales disablement and inhuman resources need to upgrade and evolve to align with what's going on today. And that's why I say you bring love back into the formula. How can you not connect with people on a deeper personal level? You're literally in their home. So, these are the deeper conversations managers have never had. They're scared to have. But at least you can start with this one HR compliant conversation, which is just simply talking about, hey, what I want for you is to be successful. I know this has been a massive change. Most of us have never gone through anything like this before, let alone now working at home, which presents a whole slew of other problems. I want to make sure I'm being the best leader and coach I can be for you, and was hoping we can have a conversation around what I can do to best support you around reaching your goals. Okay, stop. Now that's enrollment. Everyone probably familiar with that if you read my book. Now I've set intention. The person knows my positive intent. Now I would move into the questions that no managers are asking. By the way, I have this for everyone. I will send this email. I'm going to make a note. I have this whole template. So you don't have to worry about writing everything down, including the questions. But have you been asked these questions, or have you asked these questions such as, so what did you find difficult that you didn't think was going to be difficult? What did you find easy that you thought would be actually more challenging? How are you best managing your day to ensure you're getting everything done at work while honoring your personal priorities? How are you turning off work at home so you can be present with your significant other, your family, the people you care about? What's the best way for us to communicate in this new environment? How often would you like me to stay in touch and connect with you? What's the best communication platform you'd like to use? These are just a handful of questions. And by the way, many of you can probably sense some of these questions are, if not all of them, are questions you probably want to ask your customers and clients as well, because they're human and they're going through the same thing. And what an amazing opportunity for you to connect with your customers on a deeper level, as well as your direct reports.
Thank you. That's awesome. And we appreciate you sending us those questions.
I already made a note, and feel free to hold me accountable.
I just did. You know, I thanked you in advance for sending us those questions. Steve, I think we're going to open it up, right? So I'll hand it back to you. But Keith, thanks again.
Of course.
Speaking of questions, yeah, perfect segue into, let's open up to the group. Any questions that you guys would like to ask Mr. Rosen?
Come on, guys. This is when you have an opportunity to make the book come alive. Let's do this.
Hey, Keith, I'll start. It's Jim. How are you, pal?
Hey, Jim.
So when last we spoke, you were going to tee it up over the weekend. I'm not sure how you hit them, but I'm hoping you hit them straight. Is that fair?
Of course.
Did you get some down the fairway?
You would be surprised. I actually had a really good game until the next day, and I'm like, I can't move. And my wife's like, you've been playing golf 3 times a week and biking 20 miles 5 times a week. You're 53. You think you might be pushing your body? And my wife knows, she's like, hey, honey, I'm either all in or all out. That's just how I am. That's why I get along with managers and A-type people so well.
So I'll give that. That is good. I'll give you a lob question just real quick as folks are sort of formulating. But I was looking at your cover the other day on your book, and we were talking about it, and we saw it, and I'm like, why the heck is all his O's red? And then Travis said, hey, no, there's like X's in there. It's like the X's and O's, like a playbook kind of thing, right? And so I'm curious, just generally, and not having to do with coaching, but like, is that your design? Did somebody else come up with that? Like, I love that sort of cover right there.
Well, Jim, first of all, everything has a story, right? There is a story behind this. So you're spot on, Travis, spot on. That was all about playbook, X's and O's, trying to bring in the whole coaching theme, the thematic element into the cover. There's one little problem I realized once I started traveling internationally to 6 continents and over 75 countries is that doesn't translate overseas. Those are football plays. Kind of don't play football outside of the United States. So I'll vividly remember being in Brazil or being even in the UK or in Ireland. At the end of the day, people get the book and they're like, Keith, you know, your book is really good, but what are the X's and O's? Are they hugs and kisses? I'm like, no, it's a myopic U.S. thing. And, you know, it just showed me right then and there. And I love that lesson that I got the first time someone said that to me when I was in Ireland. I'm like, wow, the United States is not the center of the world. And I wrote this with a myopic point of view, which is why my last book, Sales Leadership, has about 50 stories from all the experiences I had traveling in different countries. So that was a good wake-up call. And as you know, on my new cover, it's very simple. It's black and red. It's black and red. That's it.
Thank you for the story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, be careful what you ask for, Jim. I could pontificate for another hour.
I got one for you.
Sorry?
Got a question for you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So in your book, one of the things that was impactful for me in your book, Sales Leadership, or not Sales Leadership, but the Salespeople and the Sales Champion, was the concept of push versus pull motivation, and it was really, really great how you laid that out. I was wondering if you could talk to the group a little bit about that concept.
Sure. How deep do you want me to get in terms of specificity around that?
Let's go medium.
Okay. Okay, cool. Great.
Maybe
So, so I,
I know you're a deep thinker, so.
no, George, I appreciate that. So, and feel free to just cut me off any point in time. Uh, so let's just talk about assumptions for a second, because I think that's where it comes down to. When managers and leaders go into an organization and now you have a team, I'll just put out a question for you to self-reflect on. And I say the universal you here is, how many of you truly know what motivates your peers, your manager, and your direct reports because you asked them and they told you? You don't have to raise your hand and you don't have to answer the question. I already know the answer. Okay? The problem is, as leaders, we often assume what motivates our people. Okay? And we often assume what motivates them is based on what? What motivates us? There's another example of coaching in our own image. So I remember the story when I was in Dubai. I was having this conversation about how to tap into people's individuality. And rather than make assumptions that every salesperson is coin operated, you need to ask the questions. So I was sharing this conversation with the team in Dubai and they started laughing. And I stopped. They said, "Hey guys, I'm glad I'm entertaining you, but was there something specifically that I said that is either off or funny?" They said, no, Keith. Basically what you just said, which was running around and pointing at our salespeople and saying, "Don't you want to make more money? Don't you want to make more money? Don't you want to make more money? Don't you want to get that promotion?" That's exactly what we do all day. And it doesn't work. Shocker. So we cannot coach and inspire in our own image. We need to uncover what truly inspires people internally themselves. So when for example, I ask managers, "Tell me about your job," and they say, "Oh, Keith, I'm a manager. I manage 10 people." No, you don't. You don't manage 10 people. You manage 10 individuals who happen to share the same job function. It's a subtle distinction, but a critical one. Because if you're saying, "Well, I manage 10 salespeople," that ensues that you're managing everyone the same way. And chances are it's the way you like to be managed. And then we wonder why we get resistance, pushback, and we start seeing that trust is eroded. That's the push strategy. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. You stop, it'll roll right down, because we never tapped into people's internal motivation. Now turn that around. How do you do it? In pure simplicity, coach. When in doubt, ask the question. And this is another great opportunity for enrollment. Stephen, you may want to make a note. I have another great template to share with everyone on actually how to tap into people's individuality. And I have a great exercise that I'm also going to share with everyone on how to actually do so. It's something that I would actually implore all of you to do as well. So another resource I'll be sending everyone. When it comes to tapping individuality, how many times have you asked a very simple question? What motivates you? What gets you up out of bed every day? What do you love about your job most? What would you love to change about your job if you could? What would you love to do more of each day? Here's one of my favorite questions. If you didn't have to work, what would you do with your time? I'm going to be sending you all of these questions. Managers don't ask them, and they fill them in with assumptions. And then we wonder why there's 74% disengagement in the workforce. And we wonder why, "Oh, Keith, it's so hard to manage and motivate people." That's because we're trying to guess what motivates them. We're banging our head against the wall trying to figure out what motivates them and how to hold them accountable, when the answer is, you're asking the wrong person. Manager Keith, how do I hold people accountable? How do I motivate them? Don't ask yourself. Ask them. How can I support you? What motivates you? What can I do to be your accountability partner and hold you accountable in a way that sounds supportive? How would you like me to follow up with you if you don't follow through with the commitments you make? What would be a good way to bring this up? Look what I just did. I'm not guessing how to hold people accountable for, and I'm not saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to micromanage them, but I don't want to give them too much rope to hang themselves." You ask the questions. So if you want to uncover how people like to be motivated and use that pull structure, let them tell you. And for those of you, again, who read the book, that wanting for statement now becomes exponentially more powerful. Now it's not just, what I want for you is to be more successful. Now it's, what I want for you is to be able to take that vacation you said was important to you and your family. What I want for you is to be able to save for your children's education. What I want for you is to be able to afford that house you said you want to put a down payment on. What I want for you is to have more peace of mind at home and have more balance that you said you're struggling with creating. the only way you could say those things is if they tell them to you. Now you're connecting with people on a much deeper level. And by the way, one final point on that, and George, thanks for bringing this up because it's so essential. Don't just ask these questions once. Don't think you just ask them during the interview process. This is something you want to ask at least, especially now, I'd probably say at least twice a year, because we have never experienced such accelerated change than we have this year. Okay? Normally things move fast on a good day. Life changes, people change. Kids get older, kids go to school, people have children, people's children leave the house, family gets older, parents get older, financial situations change. All these things have an impact on people's motivations and values. We need to keep our finger on the pulse of that if you truly want to keep your team performing like champions. Does that help, George?
That was fantastic. Thank you.
Yo, you got it. My pleasure. Come on, guys. I'm just warming up. What do we got?
Who's next?
Hey Keith, how are you? It's Raul.
Hey, Raul.
Hey, I watched one of your blogs that talked about doing things that make you feel uncomfortable. What does that look like for sales?
I'll go back to the survey, and again, I'll send it to everyone. Over 3,000 people responded to the survey. What are you spending now that you're working remotely? What are you spending most of your time doing or feeling? Prospecting was 13%, my friend. 13%. So let's talk about what salespeople really need to be doing and why aren't they prospecting out there? So this is about getting uncomfortable. How many salespeople do you know are acutely masterful at presenting prospecting via Zoom, via any remote, video platform? Okay. We had to get comfortable with this. So, the sense of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is this. If you're doing stuff that you did yesterday, you're not changing anything. If you're managing the people the same way you did yesterday, come on, you know the answer. You're going to get the same results as before, which I believe everyone knows the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I like to add my definition of futility to that, which is knowing the definition of insanity and still not doing anything about it. So we can keep doing the same thing over and over again. We're staying in our comfort zone. But now if you do something different, something that's outside of something you're used to doing, whether it's new knowledge acquisition, whether it's having a different conversation, whether it's coaching, whether it's enrolling someone, whether it's leveraging the power of Zoom and presenting for the first time. These things you might be uncomfortable doing. Prospecting in this new era. Maybe it's certainly different. It's uncomfortable for salespeople on a good day to prospect. But here's the thing. If you're doing things that are uncomfortable, you're going to, by default, produce a new and better result, which is why we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Did I answer your question, Raul?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Oh, and for example, uncomfortable for me, in case anyone wants to know, I mentioned before I was on a program before delivering a 3-hour Zoom program. So you can imagine how got to keep that really interactive. During the process, I get a text from my wife. Oh, by the way, massive storm. I don't know if anyone here lives in New York. Massive storm just blew by. I'm getting texts from my friends. Another one. Tree knocked down. Can't get through my street. My wife texted me. This is, let's see, it's 4 o'clock now. Probably I was around 2 o'clock. She texted me. She says, "You know that really big tree we have in our backyard? It's now on the side of our house and smashed our brand new compressor that we just got for our air conditioning, and fell so far on the side of my lawn that it split my cherry blossom." So, yeah, luckily, I thought the power was going to go. Everyone, for some reason, I think I'm the only one on my block that has power. So, but my commitment was still to be with you guys. Just want to let you know. So if you want to know about being uncomfortable right now, I'm probably going to be really uncomfortable when I go outside and see what I haven't seen yet.
Oh. I hate to keep you too much longer, Keith, if you got to get to that.
No, hey, man, you really think I want to go see what's out there? I much rather be working and coaching with you guys. So I'm good for another hour if you'd like. I'm just kidding. But let's certainly, if there's any other questions, I certainly want to make sure I can feel them.
I did want to ask you one question. I saw on your on one of your blogs recently, you mentioned something about like maybe you got this feedback from leaders about like, hey, since we're really trying to drive results right now, maybe we should just resort to telling our folks what to do instead of coaching them. That just really like that hit home a lot. Like, can you explain that a little bit more? Maybe just touch on that real quickly. That was very interesting to read.
Yeah, I wrote this. I'm not going to say it's a new concept. I wrote an article called, you're either 1 degree away from a sale or a sales slump. And again, I'll share that with everyone. It's on my blog. And basically the concept is this. Managers are so reactive today and have, quite frankly, they're not getting the guidance from their senior leadership. Everyone is just trying to make sense of what's going on in the world, personally, professionally, trying to manage our team, trying to figure out how to even support our team. People at home, we're all in this state of uncertainty. So the point, and I share the story is back in 2014. I don't know if for any of you who remember or even live in Atlanta, I'm sure you do. There was a horrific storm. People died. Families were stranded on the highway all night. There was over 13 or $15 million of damage that one night. People slept in their cars. Employees slept at CVS. Students were stranded at schools. Parents couldn't pick up their students. They were sleeping in schools with the teachers. I mean, it was an absolute horrific event. What's my point? My point of 1 degree is this. Water freezes at 34 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. If it was 1 degree warmer, that horrific situation would have never happened. Not 50 different steps, not 1,000 different steps, 1 degree. 1 degree would have changed everything for millions of people. Now think about your day. Think about why managers are reacting and saying, you know what, maybe I shouldn't coach. Maybe, we need results even faster than before. We got furloughs. We got layoffs. Who wants to lay anyone off? Maybe this is the time we just got to start telling people what to do and we'll pick up coaching later. It can be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life because managers, if they're saying that, they were never, ever coaching. This is not the time to stop. This is the time to continue coaching. This is the time to not move into fear and go directed. This is the time to focus on what can be possible and what can be created. Not what was, but what can be. That's all about the language of enrollment and what leaders have the power to do to influence their culture. So when I write about this in this article, it's just 1 degree. Let me put it in perspective. You're coaching someone. Rather than make an assumption, validate it. Ask that one additional question. When you're prospecting or cold calling or you're observing your people cold call prospecting or having a discovery call, what's that additional question, that one question that would have made the difference of exposing an initial objection or not and courting that wrong prospect all the way through your sales cycle, where the exponential cost is if you ask that question, you would have been able to disqualify them and focus on the prospects that are promising and the ones who want to work with you. 1 degree, one more set, one more walk outside, one more call to a parent, one more I love you to a friend or a family member. 1 degree can change everything. And if there's anything that I would hope for everyone to leave with is, what's that just one thing? If you look at your day, personally and professionally, that one thing that you can do that compounded over time would have an exponential impact on your life and the lives of others. That's okay. Point is, this is the time to coach. You guys, your leaders, this is a testament to the commitment that you have to the organization and they have to you, that I am here and that you are here. I admire all of you for being here. I admire the commitment you have to yourself, to your company, to the people you're working with, I'm sure to your families. And it's truly my pleasure and honor to be able to work with you.